Hello, it is good to see you again, friends of Al-Kharid.
Oh
Yeah!
God.
This
Oh,
is
I
why I
think I
don't
prefer
do
Ryan
this.
doing it.
This is why I don't do it.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Friends of Al-Kharid podcast. Sans Ryan this week, unfortunately. Uh, hello.
Yeah,
Oh
imagine a
God. Oh no.
podcast
Oh
without
no.
Ryan. You were
Of
supposed to
Al-Kharid.
say that Unforgiven. Wait, wait,
Yeah,
wait.
who's
Why
that?
is Unforgiven blue?
I don't know. I had to make
Who?
someone up with the odd one out.
Fair enough. Yeah. Looks good.
But yes,
Looks good.
so yeah, we're with.
All right, we're back,
Oh,
everybody, with another podcast. We didn't do one last week, and I think that is largely because, I don't know why. I think we're just waiting for something to
yeah,
happen.
there's
Actually,
there's
and
not
now
a
we
lot,
have
not a
lots
lot
to talk
happened
about.
with the game over before last week. So
What is it that we will be talking
well, I
about,
think first of all,
Benjamin?
I want to introduce our guest for tonight, and we've got him in particularly
Oh,
for
yeah.
one reason, which we'll get to on the game changes, because he's an ex.
Yeah, I'm Interjection.
No,
Thanks for
bugger off,
introducing me,
bugger off.
Glenn.
Unforgiven first, because the game change we're on about is we could do with a RuneScape expert, so that is why he is here. But he's also not a bad
Odd.
Chronicle player.
Yeah, I'm a RuneScape expert.
Well, you know a lot more than we do, and I think it's you being like perhaps on the same tier of Chronicle. Like you're a really good Chronicle player, right? And you know lots about RuneScape as well, since you actually play old school. So I think that's good to have you on, given that yes, a working knowledge of current RuneScape is probably quite useful for what we're about to discuss. And I'm looking forward to discussing that. Lots of changes, or lots of things that are very interesting, seen at RuneFest and on the Twitter of the Chronicle page. So that coming up.
Yes, right. So we move.
But first,
should we jump or not? Because Ryan's not here.
yeah, we have to jump. It's
Right then. So
Let's
we're heading
jump.
over into the competitive side of things, and we're going to start off with the league. So this last couple of weeks has been the playoffs have been taking place. In the Elite League, we've got Freeb has managed to reach the final. He has defeated the defending champion Unforgiven.
Oh, I have to defy.
Interjection is playing Ryan in the other semi-final.
I'm still to do that.
I just want to say Reap got lucky, okay?
Freeb got lucky, really.
Yeah.
Nice to see Suki back in the Elite League there. I think that is where he deserves to be. Like, very strong player. And as controversial as he can be, I think he's certainly very good at Chronicle, and he does bring interesting decks. So looking forward to him playing, I think at one point he was playing people's decks that they had built against them specifically. I thought that's was
pretty good.
So glad to see Suki back, and I think, yeah, very deserved spot. Looking forward to seeing Ryan and Interjection play. I'm sure that'll be a very interesting match.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I think Ryan could surprise a few people in that one. He's impressed me this season against everyone in the Elite League. So,
do you think I can 4-0 him just like you, Glenn?
I think you only 3-1 him, sadly.
He's pretty good though. Maybe I've got my work cut out. I did play him earlier. I think it's worth pointing out. Obviously, I played him earlier in the league as well, and that did go in the direction of a 4-1, I think. So, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'll do it again. Certainly in a card game. But yeah, looking forward to playing Ryan, and of course the winner of us two will play against Freeb. And I think Freeb, unsurprisingly, on the top spot. You did just mention perhaps he got lucky. I haven't seen the games myself, but it doesn't surprise me, put it that way, to see Freeb up there. Certainly always on top of the ladder, certainly always on top of the leagues, and just, I think, one of Chronicle's strongest players and one of the best minds on the game currently when it comes to just judging if something is good or not. I think he's a very good player, and it's unsurprising to see him.
I've thought this for a long time, that Freeb's one of the best players, and he's just proving it over and over again with both his performance in the Cups and the League. And might as well mention it when we mention it now. The Weekly Cup number 6 last week, I think Freeb actually might have won that. So the host actually won his cup for once. So, yep, definitely rigged.
It just goes to show either Freeb is a fucking magician and is very good at pulling stuff out of his ass, or he's actually a very good Chronicle player, and that being good at Chronicle does produce results. It does win you tournaments like that weekly one Bundy host. It does put you at the top of the league consistently and almost always in the top 10 as well. So I think, no surprises there to hear that he won a weekly cup as well.
He's good at the game, and he also tends to play very aggressive and
catches a lot of people off.
Takes risks that a lot of people wouldn't take, and I think it's really paying off for him.
I think just being good at Chronicle, does give results. Like, it is clearly a game where, being good at it and thinking about what you do does pay off. It's not completely as random as some people like to make out. So there is that.
And then obviously the other bit of the competitive league, Dankus Memes has won the playoffs, so he's going to be in the Premier Division next season. So congratulations to him. And then the other place is going to be decided between Da Top Rat, Scouser, Mr. Banzai, Square Vinyl, and I've missed him off, but Matt P4. So there's five of them left. They've got a few more matches to play, and then we've got our second promotee. So yeah, congratulations to Dancast, and good luck to the rest of you. And now, finally, the last bit of the competitive that we're going to go on to, if I can get this working. Container Chronicle. Move it up. Why is this not working? You'll have to bear with... Oh, because Chronicle's not working. That's fun. That's fun. Right.
Unlucky.
Where is Chronicle? Okay, well, it was going to be the ladder, but for some reason it doesn't want to work. I can read through the ladder, though. The top 10 at the moment.
Can you just take a picture and
go
put it on?
Actually, yeah, that's not a bad idea.
You can use Alt to crop it, by the way, like I taught you earlier. So for those that don't know, Glenn and Ryan have been cropping these webcams and cropping all sorts of things in the most convoluted way. Turns out there's a very easy solution, but you should have that top 10 right now. Just pointlessly filling time for Glenn. I think
keep filling.
If I keep rising my voice up and down like this, I'm doing an adequate job of it. And we got
Nope, keep filling.
Yes.
There, right. I think I've got it. Yep, I'll just put it straight across the entire screen to save time. There we go. So we've got number 1, Goth Girl, then Scouser, Unforgiven, Minkman, F2P Xander, which is Mini Xander's free-to-play account, Saigo Pit, Psychopath, Natsuki, Stoof, and Lucky Mellow.
So Psychopath's on there twice. I saw earlier in the week that he was rank 1, and then I checked again and saw... Well, this was whilst there was very few people in the top 10. I think it might have just been him, which is quite easy to be rank 1 when it's only you there, but a big achievement to get there that quickly, and I think it took several days, if not a week or so, for other people to catch up with Psychopath. Has 2 accounts in the top 10 currently, clearly very strong. But then I checked a bit later on, and I noticed that Unforgiven was rank 1, and Goth Girl was up there as well. And today,
it happened that...
has changed. What's going on? Go on.
It happened that when I finished my plat promos, I ended up getting straight to rank 1, and yeah, that was surprising. Then I sat there for, I think, about a week just playing my decay games until I finally lost my decay game yesterday, and then Goth Girl overtook me, and apparently Scouser got between there somehow.
Earlier today, there was a guy called Brosean at rank 1, and then I managed Brosean. And then I managed to beat him 4 times in a row, and he ended at rank 19. So I did feel a little bit bad about that one. But yeah, one thing to mention about Goth, she actually got to rank 1 there by using Morvran. So that's quite impressive.
So I think I took a look at Goth Girl's deck. Now, you say it's a Morvran deck.
Yeah.
It is, undisputably. But there's not very many Morvran cards in the deck, and that's okay. A lot of decks are like that. The cards that are in there are obviously the notable, very strong ones. So Bouncer, kind of like Crawling Hand. That card gives you 3 temporary attack, very strong. But also the aggressive on that, it's only just it's just better. It's aggressive itself, and sometimes that'll be worse. But you also get to run Unicorn as well, which is obviously very strong. Now I think this is inevitable. Goth Girl obviously is known for running very, perhaps not so good decks, very strange decks that are not meta, just are different. And I think a person who does that all the time, is always experimenting, always trying new things, is bound eventually to find a formula that is very strong, and is just bound to happen. It's going to happen at some point. Goth Girl will be rank 1 because she's a good player, but also because if you keep trying different things, eventually you find something that's very, very strong. And obviously, the more things you try, the more likely you are to find that thing. So I think Goth Girl, yeah, a well-deserved spot, and nice to see her finally finding the formula that gets her there. I think that Morvar Index very interesting, and definitely a good deck, and you can't argue with results either.
Also worth mentioning that she has been up there in Diamond all this time, but she's finally made there at the very top.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's been in the top 10 like many, many times, and certainly is always Diamond. Definitely. Scouser, though, allegedly is ranked.
He actually went through Platinum, losing only twice. That's impressive.
That does help.
It helps.
That is impressive.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Where does the ELO start? Like, so for those that don't know, like you have a hidden MMR/ELO rating. We're not sure what it is, but you have a hidden value when you're plat, right? So if you start at plat 50, that's when you want to get serious and not lose any more games, because you're basically building your diamond points, right? As soon as you're there, and it doesn't actually show until you hit diamond. Now, that was how it used to be. You'd always start getting them in diamond, but I always feel like Diamond 50 would always be like the wrong place to start doing that. I feel like it should be like, why not as soon as you start playing the game? They may have changed it to be when you're in gold, you start gaining those diamond points. But like my general, I think maybe you can elaborate more on this as well, Glenn, when you went down to Jagex. Like, do you think like Diamond 50 is where you should start accumulating those
think
points?
So, yes. Like, I don't think you should get into Diamond and automatically go, like Unforgiven did when he got there. I don't think you should get through Platinum and then say, oh, I'm ranked number 1 now. I think you shouldn't start gaining ELO until you're in Diamond, and your ELO should only change if you play against another Diamond. That with a combination of a change in the decay system, I think will encourage more people in Diamond to play.
I think you should gain some sort of placement ELO before, but it shouldn't. There should be no way it would get you even near, say, top 10, because
there's no reason for you to play at the moment. Then, is there?
Yeah, like why would you be top 10 without playing a single game in Diamond? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, you can play against gold players and get there.
I don't like. So you mentioned like you should only get MMR points against people who are in Diamond, but like that doesn't really make any sense, because like you win. Like if you play against somebody who is if you're Diamond, you play against someone in Plat and you finish the game, and then you don't like win or lose any points. I feel like that doesn't really make any sense. I feel like you should start gaining MMR as soon as the game starts, right? As soon as you start, like maybe in Silver Ladder or something like that. Yes, I'm holding a ram stick and stroking. I don't know why. It's just a ram stick there. But yeah. Like, surely that fixes the problem as well. Yeah. Anyway, like, this is a different topic for another time. The point we're making is that Scouser is ranked 2 and got there from smashing Plat. Well played to him, and is now ranked 2.
Yeah, he fluked it.
Yeah, same from Unforgiven. I think a lot of people can do it that way, and then once you get there...
I played literally 3 games in Diamond, and there was exactly 3 days between each one of them.
You're exactly what's wrong with this ladder system.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, if you play, you have to play at least 1 game every 3 days, otherwise your hidden MMR points thing will decay. So I think, if anything, no offense, Scouser, but this just proves that like you should have to play more games, certainly more than 1 game during 3 days. Like maybe, I don't know how you.
I don't think exactly, it would be unreasonable to ask the weight top players for them to stay at the very top to play games, even if not every day, at least like a certain amount of games every few days.
Yeah, I think like certainly when the mobile client comes out, I think 1 game every 24 hours is extremely
more than reasonable for the way top of the ladder.
Yeah, I think it should. I feel as if it ought to be something like 5 games within 3 days or something like that. Certainly more than 1 game a day, something like that as well. Yeah.
Well, I think that we've.
But like that's the point we're illustrating, right? Scouser and Unforgiven and a lot of other people, you can just get into the top 10 if you just absolutely smash Diamond with a good deck and take it really seriously. And obviously, I think that kind of step, I don't know necessarily, but if you're like Diamond 50, that's where you get your placement ELO. And it's usually really good. Like playing against someone who is Diamond 50 feels really, really rewarding, like way more rewarding than it should be when you beat them, because their MMR is like their placement MMR is like reasonably high rather. Yeah, Plat 50. Anyway, this is a mention. Unforgiven, Scouser,
discussion for another day.
Have played that system there, and it might ought to be something that should be spoken about, or at least thought about. But yes, that's the top 10. Always interesting to see, and always sparks off these sort of tangent
Right, we're
conversations.
gonna jump into see. I've got to keep the jumping going, even though Ryan's not with us. Dungeoneering.
I love jumping.
So yes, the game is actually working here. Right, so
are we doing?
We're gonna go quick Dungeoneering draft. Yes, we're gonna do a speed draft.
Oh god!
No, to be honest, I've not done a Dungeoneering draft for a while.
Do you?
I can safely say that I have played a lot more Dungeoneering now that I have reached higher rank on ladder, since I can't play rank except every 3 days.
So I've got Linza or Raptor.
Raptor. I feel like Linza's just.
I have no idea what to do with Linza in Dungeoneering.
Like you can actually build a deck I feel like it's a lot easier to build a Raptor deck, whereas Linza's you can end up with a really bad draft. Plus, now that Dust Devil isn't as good, it's difficult. Yeah.
Right then, we've got Tok Chill, Customs Officer, Frenzy, Cake Mix, Slam.
So, just before we pick anything, I want to preface this with, I have not played Dungeoneering in forever. I do not think Dungeoneering is very interesting at the moment, probably because, I don't know, it's certainly interesting. I just really, really, really like Constructed, and I haven't been playing a ton anyway. And that tier list, we'll talk about that another time. Yeah, but here, based on knowledge that I used to have, maybe, I think Togzil and Customs Officer are the stronger cards.
Yeah, I'm in agreement.
Customs Officer, definitely. You can make a case for Slam instead of Togzil, but I think Togzil is the safer.
I don't think so. I feel like Raptor wants to save his gold for the win condition supports, right? Which are something like D-Long, which in and of itself is a win condition. You take that into the final fight, and that can win you a game. Stuff like Amulet of Fury.
Gold gains more importance in Dungeoneering.
Yeah, if this was the very final pick, then Slam might be good if we didn't have a weapon removal. But right now, I feel like Reach and reasonable gold is actually pretty valuable.
Right then, we've got Stink Ears, Destroy, Wizard Triborn, Pirate's Hideout, Ogre Chieftain. Now I think I quite like Wizard Triborn in Dungeoneering. Stink Ears is rubbish.
I quite like
Destroy. I like Destroy, and
I like picking up early.
I think Destroy and Triborn.
Yeah.
I like Ogre Chieftain, I wouldn't mind picking that as well with the Destroy.
Because if your opponent tanks themselves quite low, you can tank it to win and get a surprise win.
Yeah, and there are other Raptors that stack AP. There are a lot of ways to kill it in Solomon.
Right, we've gone for the Chieftain.
Whatever, even the Destroy.
Right, now we've got Test of Might, Revenant Dark Beast, Calphate Emissary, War Tortoise, Tox Ket M. It's some interesting choices.
That's a new card.
Yeah. It's the free battle.
It's not so new, but I have never picked it in Dungeoneering before, so I think it's certainly quite interesting there. Not that I would necessarily take it in this particular set of 5, but let's take a look.
Right.
Yeah, so I think the Totsket Etem is power level wise the best card
here. I agree.
There are a lot of not so good cards here, and I'd pick the Calphite Emissary over the War Tortoise or Test of Might, and the Revenant Dark Beast is pretty bad.
I think Calphite Emissary, most of the time, it's going to do some damage because there's a lot more armor floating around across more decks.
Yeah.
And plus it's weapon removal. So.
Yeah, you remove that D-Long before you go into the final fight. Calvate, we haven't got a weapon removal. I think it's very worthwhile to pick at least one up. And this is right now, this is there's nothing else here that's that compelling over the top of it. I personally think Calphite Emissary is the strongest card in that set there, and then Tok takes afterwards.
Now,
there is no disagreement here on the 2 cards that we're going to take. They're both clearly.
Now we have
cards.
the Adventurous, Cerberus, Burnt Meat, Tenebra, and Ichlagor. And there's a couple of those we're going to be talking about later on.
Oh, sham.
Yeah, Ichlagor is the clear strong one here.
Yeah, it's a really good card. It's your win condition, and you take that. Then the other
the whole deck is
interesting.
Yeah, the whole deck's built around killing this thing. We get 2 base attack. We go to the final fight. Pretty good.
And we already have a Destroy.
Yeah, and because we have a Destroy, I actually think Tenebra is semi-playable.
I like Tenebra,
me too.
But currently we don't have ways to reach into it.
Yeah.
Or any card draw, but I don't like Burnt Meat very much either, so it's
I like Burnt Meat a lot more than you do, I think. I think we always have that discussion.
I would probably still pick it here just based on how few ways we have to reach into Tenebra currently, and how much safer
I'm leaning towards Unforgiven here. I'm leaning towards Unforgiven here. Like,
yeah, I think
that you want to use the destroy. Yeah, you want to use the destroy on AP gain, not health steal as a Raptor.
Yeah, or something like Commander Zoyana even, which is just better than Ibra in Raptor. So burnt me.
Right,
yeah,
we've now got Sarket, Tok'Chill, Destroy, Dr. Finkenstrain, and Garajo Hordstalker.
Yeah, Dr.
Boom.
Yeah.
And Tok'Chill, a second Destroy card for consistency. We haven't got any armor gain yet, but
yeah.
We have a lot of ways to spend armor,
I would probably still go for the second Destroy here.
Well, I like the Finkenstrain. 3 gold is definitely valuable, right? And we're going to pick up something to spend it on at some point, so I think that's good. And then Garayo Hordstalker, I think, might be better than Destroy here, given that we don't have any armor just yet.
I think Garayo is better most of the time anyways.
Okay. Right, I'm going with the majority decision, so we've gone with Garajo.
But Garayo now means like picking up big creatures is a lot more valuable because we can 2-hit kill stuff like and stuff like
we can 2-hit kill stuff like something we've just drawn, Ogre Warlord. So we've got Frenzy, Greater Demon, Strength Pot, Full Tetsu, Ogre Warlord. So I think
Full Tetsu used to be the to pick here. I remember on the tier list you always pick it no matter what class you were. I'm not so sure.
Much worse now.
Well,
I think.
Yeah. I think you.
It's still okay.
Though it's still worth picking up, right? Like because there's that option, right? Where let's say we do get Amulet of Fury and we do get a Full Tetsu, and then you choose between which one of those is better in the game you're currently playing. If you're about to die, Full Tetsu is a lot better than Amulet of Fury, but most of the time it won't be. And I think it's important to have access to that healing. I don't think, given that we've just picked up a Garayo Hordstalker and there's only one massive card in the deck, that Strength Potion isn't really needed. So I think Full Tetsu, because I think the healing is good to have available. We don't necessarily have to buy it, but it's good to have it available, and we can spend the gold on other things. The second card I would pick is Ogre Warlord. I think that's very
Ogre Warlord's the first one I'd pick.
The obvious one, I'd say.
Yeah.
Then it comes down to the Strength Potion and Full Tetsu. Maybe I understand and value your points, but I just hate how gold inefficient the new Full Tetsu is, and I would be leaning towards Strength Potion personally, but I think they're both fine picks.
Well, I've gone Full Tetsu. So now we've got Ghost Ship, Ice Troll, Preparation, Shug, General Grador.
Ice Troll.
I think we go Prep. And is there any use for Shug in this deck? Probably is.
I think there always is use for
Ghost
Shug.
Ship's just no good
Shug
in
just can be used in so many ways. You can use it as Cabbage with Customs Officer, or you can use it to one-shot an Iglagor.
Yeah, we'll do that then. Now we've got Finkenstrain, Animated Armor, Troll General, Sarket, Penguin Sheep. And I think we kind of need the animated armor. We need some armor.
I'm gonna unplug my mic.
Then I think we go for a second Fenk and an animated armor. What do you think?
There are definitely both really good cards, and I think there's no reason not to pick them.
There's no reason to pick Penguin Sheep. Troll General, no. Sarket, no. So that's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Then we've got early diamonds. Papa Mambo, Yelps, Abyssal Whip, Party Hat, Court Beast.
Oh, a lot of good ones there. No Barricade.
No. Well, I want to take. I want to take Yelps, Court Beast, and Abyssal Whip.
Same. They are very high power level cards. I'd probably take Court Beast at least, just because of how much of a win condition it is. Abyssal Whip as well, though, but that's sometimes hard to afford. The Yelps would help to combo to afford it, but it's a really tricky pick. I'm not sure here what I would do.
I think we go Court Beast, Abyssal Whip.
How much gold
12.
do we have? 12.
But we're not going to be buying both the Garajo Hordstalker and the Abyssal Whip, so. And we've also got Prep.
I'd always take the Corp because of how
is just
good
an
it
insane
is.
card. And I think, we're going to go...
I think I would take the Whip as well, but it's a bit expensive, but it's really good.
I've gone with the Whip. Right, round 10. We've got Exile, Fight Paragon, Fight Cauldron, Ice Nile, Mimic, Fight Pit. Now, I think for me, there's 2 easy cards here. Fight Cauldron and Ice Nile.
Ice Nile is insane. And we need armor for the Distro.
That's a pretty simple one. Fight Pit, Pogjam. Now, the rule is we have to take Ali, so we're taking Ali. We've got Goblin Brute, Mimic, Barbed Warrior, Ice Nile.
Ooh, Barbed Warrior and Ice Nile are both very good.
We don't have any monsters with less than 4 health. Oh, there's someone. Oh, hello. Okay, the Skype call has just ended, so bear with me a second. We'll get it back up again. Hello. That was interesting.
What happened?
I don't know, but we're still live, so...
Cool.
I think Interjection might have disconnected. So...
Okay, well, let's
you'll have to bear with the cameras. Accept. Right, there we go. Okie dokie. Right, so we got Brute, Mimic, Barbed Warrior, Nile. What I was saying, we don't have any monsters less than 4 health at the moment. So I'm thinking, I'm edging towards the Barbed Warrior.
Yeah, it feels really bad to pass up on Nihil, but I think I agree.
Yeah. Okay.
Barbed Warrior has a lot of uses in our deck.
Okay, now we've got Steel Titan, Cabbage, Ketzek, White Wolf, Chaos Dwarf.
I think I would actually take the Cabbage Steel Titan, although White Wolf is very good as well. Tempting even.
I think Steel Titan, definitely. We need AP again. Oh, currently your face is huge. I need to change that.
Huge.
Hang on a sec. Let's just hide Interjection's camera. And hide his border. Bear with us a second, guys. And
I guess he unplugged his internet as well.
Yeah, that's annoying.
But while we're at this pick, I think it's worth mentioning how good I think Ketzek is as well as a value card, even in a Raptor, and surprisingly easy to reach into as well. The reason I say Cabbage though is that healing is just so good and you need it so much in a Raptor. We have few ways of gaining AP here with the Steel Titan, Iklagor and whatnot, but we need to stay alive as well.
Yeah, there's not really a lot of healing in this deck.
Yeah, there is not, and I would be really tempted to go for the Cabbage here with the Steel Titan.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. We might have Interjection back.
Yeah, so I unplugged it, plugged it back in, and it said this device.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah, and it said this device has malfunctioned, and then proceeded to restart.
Unlucky.
Do I sound better? Do I sound like I'm
You sound fine.
A super deep merchant?
You sound fine.
Right, I'm just fixing the cameras, and we should be...
So do you have anything to say about this pick, Interjection? I would go with the Steel Titan Cabbage myself.
How much gold do we have?
We've got 19 gold. We're spending it on Garager, Horse-Stalker, Abyssal Whip, Full Tetsu, and Burnt Meat at the moment. But so I think I'm definitely going to go for a Steel Titan.
So there's nothing actually worth spending it. I really like White Wolf though.
I do as well, and I like all of these cards even, but I think AP is something you can't skip up on very lightly, and this deck is really lacking in heals right now.
Yeah, okay. I was hesitant because I saw a White Wolf, which I think is very strong. And then,
we've already got the Burnt Meat though. Yeah. So what were we saying? Steel Titan and
and Cabbage.
Yeah, I would go with that.
You actually need to get to the final fight with life.
Okay, so we've got Animated Armor, Greater Demon, Penguin Sheep, Chieftain, and Customs Officer. Animated Armor, 100%.
Customs Officer,
yeah,
probably.
I think we're right, consistency.
I wouldn't want another Chieftain, I don't think.
No. Then we've got Goblin Brute, Calfa Emissary, Ali we have to take, Exile Calphite Paragon, and Mimic. I think we go... No, Paragon. We definitely don't go for the Exile Calphite Paragon. We go for a Calphite Emissary, I think. We've got enough gold.
It's a pretty good card, I guess, although it's the less powerful of the Calphites.
You definitely haven't finished fixing my camera.
No, you're not showing you haven't shared your camera.
Yes.
Right, so Calphite Emissary it is. And final round, we've got Kizaj, Kale, Darek, Morwenna, Barricade. So, Barricade it is.
Barricade is probably the best possible card you can draft.
So we've got the Barricade Corp combo.
I can't see how you wouldn't take that always.
I'm not going to bother with the camera. I don't know how to get it back, and it is not strictly necessary. Anyway, yeah. It's between Goblin Brute and Calphite Emissary for me.
We already picked that one.
Oh. Alright.
We have picked Barricade, I assume, and what were the other diamonds?
Kizaj, Kale, Darek, Morwenna.
Yeah,
I'd go full Darok, yeah.
Yeah, full Darok is insane as well. Now that Kishaz is much worse for dungeoneering.
Okay, so we've done that. Let's get your predictions in the chat. What do you think I'm going to do with this run?
Well, how much healing does it have?
15 heal,
that's a big indicator
15 heal and 28 armor. Plus a Court Beast. Yeah, and a Court Beast. Well.
Yeah, okay, it seems reasonable. Yeah, I think you'll do reasonably well with this if you can get that full Darok to work. And you don't brick every game by drawing like double emissary.
But that's the one risk with this deck that we've got, because I've only got 1 3 health creature, 2 4 health creatures, and the rest are all 5 and above.
Yeah, there's a reasonable amount of ways to kill them, but if you don't draw those ways, you are pretty much fucked.
Pretty much. Thank you, Dankus, predicting a 0-4, as usual. Ajami reckons 5 and 3.
There's always one.
I reckon I can get to the 3rd floor with this. It's not the best Raptor deck, but...
Yeah, I think the deck is definitely capable.
Yeah.
And you're an okay player.
Oh, thank you very much.
Seriously.
Okay then, we are moving on to our next section, which is the main reason we've got... Oh, the cameras have completely messed up for this. The main reason we've got Unforgiven here, and that is the game changes. Now, Merchant has very kindly sent us a bit of a cryptic image. It's the map for the campaign mode. Now...
Yeah. It's not that.
It is a little bit. So we've got to try and work out what it is.
I think it was... it's not too hard to figure this out, right? You were right about the cameras messing up. So what's going on here? We have a map. It says campaign map, right? Question. What game is Chronicle based on? Oh, I think it might be
World of Warcraft.
I've heard of this game called RuneScape.
Yeah. All right. What continents in RuneScape? Okay, let's take a look at the RuneScape map. Oh, I wonder what these 3 areas could be. There's this sandy one, which probably might be Al-Kharid.
Yeah, there's the thing where that's literally the only desert area in RuneScape, and if we take a look at the map, it's clearly the river dividing the rest of the world with the desert where Lumbridge and stuff is found.
Yeah, you can even see that map, right? Like that little bridge towards the bottom of the Al-Kharid desert. Maybe Glenn can move his cursor over it. There's a little kind of bridge, where exactly like one of the little chapters you play on in Chronicle. Like we've seen this before. It looks very, very similar. You can see that. So it's part of where that is like the Amscat ruins or something. I don't know. Like you can see that that's Al-Kharid, right?
Yes,
what were you saying?
The other big landmark on the map is the volcano, which pretty obviously is the Karamcha volcano that we know from the theme of the campaign that the mods have been tweeting about as well.
Yeah, if you go onto their Twitter, there's a whole bunch of stuff that is clearly Karajama because it says Karajama on it. And there's a volcano on Karajama, which we can clearly see from this image. And if you look at the RuneScape map, Al-Kharid is on the right-hand side and Karajama is on the left. And then that big green body in the middle there is the Kingdom of Asgarnia/Miscellane, which is just mainland RuneScape, right?
Yeah, the interesting part is the island, I think, because if you look at the old school map, you can find that Tutorial Island is roughly in between all these land masses as it is on this map. That does not exist on RS3 map though, which most of Chronicle is based on, but I think Chronicle takes old school into account enough that it could potentially be Tutorial Island, which would also be a very good place to start the campaign on. I feel like
it would make sense, right, to start on Tutorial Island. But equally, there are other islands in RuneScape that don't really go there if you actually look at the map. But this could be. It's like you can't rule out yet Krandor, which is something to do with Karajama. There's clearly a big theme going on there. That is part of the Dragon Slayer quest, though. By the looks of the tweets, this focuses more on like you arrive in Karajama, like Brimhaven, which is like this pirate area. Lots of pirates. You actually fight a pirate by the looks of it. We know that for sure.
Yeah, there was a tweet with a drunken
pirate. Yeah, and like we know that like the big models, like like Ariane and Raptor stand behind you or stand in front of you playing the game, right? There's going to be a drunken pirate standing there, like playing the game against you. So like you land in Brimhaven, which is in Karajama, and then afterwards, by the looks of it, you fight a Tok'ra Ket, or he looks like a big character in the background. So by the looks of it, you're going into the volcano, which is where all the Tsar people are from in RuneScape. So. Looks like you're going to be going that way. So Krandor is something that kind of fits it, I guess. But equally, if that is Krandor, if that little island is Krandor, there's no reason why, like geographically speaking, Krandor shouldn't be there. So there's no reason why
it should be north of Karamcha instead of where it is on this map. So I feel like that's highly unlikely.
Yeah, I think so.
In that case, it should be pretty much literally any island.
Yeah, but I think the only other one like that's worth pointing out might be Antara, which is. If anyone knows I guess we should cover that.
This is all completely new to me, so please explain. Like, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's come into Chronicle without playing RuneScape, so.
All right, so Antara is an island where you pray to. Well, a bunch of monks live there, and they all are a big fan of Saradaman. You've heard of that guy, right?
He's got a god sword.
A god.
The supposedly good god, though I think RS3 takes a different direction with him. I'm not sure. I think it's very interesting though, but like
stereotypically good god, I guess, is the best way to put it.
And that is basically a combat-free island. You can't take weapons to it, but yes, like it's unlikely to be Antara. It's unlikely to be Krandor. It's probably going to be the Tutorial Island. But equally, in RuneScape 3, I believe, Unforgiven, maybe you can tell us more about this. The Wizard's Tower is a bit different to the old school map, so this island...
Yeah, it's the Wizard's Tower island is basically bigger and more clearly an island, separate of the mainland where you go on through the bridge, and it definitely geographically could be there, but I feel like it's unlikely just because we already have a Wizard's Tower map, and it would be boring if they just recycle it.
Yeah, but you start as Ariane. No, you don't. You start as Raptor, never mind. I was going to say Wizard's Tower would be a nice starting point for the mage class. Like, it's possible. But yeah, Tutorial Island seems like a nice starting point. I think the biggest mystery, though, is what is this island? Now, geographically speaking, Karajama, Al-Kharid, and the mainland don't actually look like that in RuneScape. They're actually positioned a bit further away from each other. This is not to scale by any means at all. So
they've used some
really,
artistic
because
license.
Of that island...
Yeah,
you have to make it fit.
Pretty much.
Yeah, there's that. But like, because it's not geographically accurate, equally, this island could be whatever as well. Another interesting point is, what the hell is this other island? Like the one like a bit closer to Karamja. I know, like, if you look at the map of Karamja, there are like random offshoot islands every now and again. Maybe that's just one of them. But like, do you think it has any importance?
I think that seems most likely. There's not really anything that comes to mind. There's like the Cairn Isle, but I'm pretty sure that's on the opposite side of Karamcha geographically, so I feel like that's unlikely, and there's not much of a story behind that, as far as I know at least, so I don't know why they would put that in there.
Alright, well, there's that. Apparently there's icons. The icons that were on this have been removed, and that small island I'm not necessarily sure you could even fit an icon on,
I'm interested to see how this works now, Because there's going to be a certain number of fights, a certain number of battles in the campaign, so I'm guessing they're all going to be spread around this map, and you move around the map.
So I think at RuneFest, maybe RS Merchant in the chat can confirm this or not. The campaign was playable at RuneFest, and obviously neither of us three went. I'm not necessarily sure if anyone in the chat went, but maybe there is footage floating around. Maybe
if
not.
If there is, I've not seen any.
Like, you can't take pictures of this.
No, not as far as I know.
Or maybe like the RuneScape guys weren't, that bothered to take pictures of their camera. Certainly there wouldn't have been any recording software on the computer, so you would have to use your camera. And maybe Jagex just said, no video footage here, please. But yeah, definitely interesting. So the campaign, by the looks of it, is clearly going to take place on these 3 continents. And I think that's very, like, everyone who played RuneScape will be familiar with, like, mainland RuneScape or mainland Galanor, I should say, and Al-Kharid and Karamja, right? Like that, like, these places are iconic, and that seems to be the theme that Jagex is going with the most.
Yeah.
Like, is it iconic? If it is so, then that's important. It doesn't matter if it's
the good part about this for the first adventure is that all of these areas were part of the free-to-play parts of RuneScape originally. Okay. Except if you go inside the volcano to the Tsar place, but all the areas, the Al-Kharid, parts of Karamcha, I guess, and Lumbridge and whatnot, Tutorial Island were all free to play, so there are areas a lot of players will be familiar with.
Yeah, so by the looks of it, the campaign is like, from what I figured, like, you've seen the Drunken Dwarf, right? Like, that to me signals you go to Brimhaven, which is the first place you would end up being in Karamja. And then after that, you fight your pirate. Then you move on to the volcano. You go inside and fight a Tok'ra Ket. That we can discover from the Twitter and what they've been tweeting. So it feels like a story mode, and that's obviously what the campaign is, where you travel through the RuneScape map, through the various locations, and fight various opponents. That's what it seems like to me, and I think they've spoiled the Karamja one a lot, or nicely enough, like, to kind of reveal that that's the way it's going.
Must this be completely wrong and Merchant is laughing us in the chat?
Yeah, perhaps. But what's interesting, right, is the Al-Kharid one, and we haven't seen anything on that, or the mainland RuneScape either.
Yeah,
so,
well, I was going to say there's a lot.
I'd like to see maybe Karamja will be the free one that everyone gets. Maybe Al-Kharid will be one you have to
Tutorial
buy.
Island boys.
Yeah, so maybe each continent will be you have to, like, pay to go there, and in plat or copper, that is, and maybe there'll be rewards. Who knows? So should we, like? I think that covers this particular image. But is it worth talking about the kind of rewards we expect or would like or would not like from a campaign?
Yes.
Like in Hearthstone, for example, you do get cards, right? Like, you can complete their, I believe, what they're called, Karazhan bullshit. No, I mean, the little, I don't know, the
wings.
I think they call them, and then you get some cards. Yeah, so you complete like a wing of the adventure. You get a card, and like that for Hearthstone, you get a card, and you can only get that card by doing that particular activity in the game. And
I think that's okay as long as I think something like that would be okay as long as you don't have to pay for it. Like, there shouldn't be anything locked away that you can't achieve free.
Do you mean pay? Do you mean if it would be completely free or viable
with copper?
Okay. Yeah, because I agree with that. And the reason I say it, I think it would be pretty boring if there's nothing unique to be had from here. One way it could be fine for me would be if you could unlock maybe like a cosmetic unique reward, and then maybe you get like a pack or something on the side. That would be fine, I guess. But I would be excited if we can get completely new cards from this.
Okay, so I think this is okay. There are 2 interjections here. The first is like Interjection as a player, and he wants everything for free because he's and the other is like, all right, like, I understand Jagex want to make a business here, and they have to sell stuff to us and stuff like that, right? Now, like, let's bear those 2 people in mind, right?
God, 2 interjections, anyway. That'd be hell.
Who needs Ryan when we can have 2 interjections?
But so what I want to say here is Hearthstone has that feature, right? Like, you complete the wing and you get a card or several cards that you can't get anywhere else. And what that does is, there's an incentive to actually play that mission, but equally it starts to create what is actually quite a large barrier to entry in a game like Chronicle, which is very, very new. And that is not good, right? Like, I feel like the reason Hearthstone did so well, perhaps one of the reasons it did so well, was because they had an absolutely monumental period of time for you to get into it whilst the base collection was still there, right? They had all of the closed beta, all of the open beta, and for like a year before they even released like any new content. So you had plenty of time to get into the game, and there was not a very big cost to doing so. Getting the cards you needed to play the game was not hard. But as soon as you start introducing adventures, or in this case perhaps campaigns, then that barrier to entry goes up enormously, because it's very different to get like to buy like a, you know, suddenly this new player's like, oh, I have to buy these packs, oh, now I have to do this campaign thing, oh, and I have to get to level 10 with this class, oh, and then eventually I have to buy this expansion pack as well. So is that really the route Chronicle wants to go down, especially this early on in its, you know, life cycle?
Right. I've had a little message here from a merchant. He has said to add him to the call, and he can talk about this. So here we go.
Hog.
We've got
baby, here we go.
So add to call. Oh, you've just messed up the cameras. God damn you.
Not like
here we go.
If you hold Alt, you can just move them around, by the way.
I can't be bothered anymore. Come on, answer the phone, merchant.
Right.
Hello. You've messed up the cameras, you sod.
Hey.
Welcome. How are you?
How's it going, boys?
Not so bad, not so bad.
Yeah, not bad. What's this cryptic image all about?
Well, if I told you that, then it would be less cryptic. However, I am here because I got tired of your flailing, so I've come to do a little
I don't think it's flailing. If you knew as much as we did, I think this is...
No, I'm basically here. I thought, why not jump on and answer some questions about a campaign?
Excellent.
Nice.
Sick.
All
right, so question number one then. Anyone?
Right. That island, is it Tutorial Island?
How close were we then with the... Yeah, that's...
No.
Oh, for God's sake!
I think, and I'm not actually 100% because I maybe can't remember all the icons go, but I think that is Wizard's Tower.
Oh, okay.
Right, that makes sense as well.
Yeah, I think it is. So basically, how this is going to work is there's going to be a bunch of icons on the map, as you may have guessed. And it's going to be, so there's a couple that we're not quite sure about because they're still in testing, but it's going to be like at least 12 missions, which will be dotted around this map. And each mission will take place against like sort of souped up enemy.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be things like you've seen Zarket and you've seen the Drunken Pirate. So there's going to be a bunch like that, which all fit the area they're in. So like I'll reveal one of the ones for Al-Kharid is the Bandit King. And he's going to have a bunch of mechanics, and you fight against his like bandit.
Is he as useless as his card?
He's going to steal 1/1 from your weapon.
He's going to steal 1. No, you play against Major Mary Rancor, and every card you get a 1/1. No, that's not true. That's not one of them. Thank fuck. But yeah, it's pretty cool. There's a load of unique conditions for each game. So let's have a think. The Drunken Pirate, at the end of each round, he steals 4 gold from you. And
R.I.P. Miracle.
And he buys a round of rum, which is like a free heal card. So you both get a free heal card, but he keeps stealing all of your rum.
Okay.
All right. That sounds. I like this. Right. So
I like how you're encouraging alcohol as a
right,
healing source.
Yeah, Wizards might. Wait. Yeah. So in Hearthstone, right, you get I don't know, for example, like there was one I remember that swaps the stats of all of your creatures like every single turn. So like, so similar here, we're gonna have like campaign bosses that have like super cool cards that might be a bit overpowered, but obviously it doesn't matter because it's like single player.
We don't want to like, because obviously we don't use like hero powers or passives or any stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what we've done is they're all cards that guy will play, and you'll see that on the board before you lock in your turn.
Yeah.
So like Pirate, every round his 4th slot is that card that's still
okay.
So you can play around that.
Oh, so you see it there. Okay.
Yeah. So for instance, Morwenna is going to be an enemy that you fight in the campaign. And I think her card's amazing. It's called Living Sacrifice, and it is a bunny. But what this bunny does is it adds 3 health to all of your creatures.
What?
Yeah, like
So she'll first slot that and she goes first, and she will first slot that every single.
It's multi-fern.
And buff all of the creatures. You get ferned on everything, basically.
Feels bad, man.
So you play Ariane against that then.
So here's how
I was going to say, what's it going to work with decks? Like,
here we go. Here's how the rewards work, right? And here's how the replayability works. Each mission is going to have 3 stars to it, and each star is going to be hidden behind a condition. So number 1 will always be just be defeat the drunken pirate or whatever, right? Or like defeat Morwenna.
Yeah.
Number 2 will be like, this is made up. You know, they aren't always along this theme. The second one is varied, but it's like a medium difficulty challenge. So it might be like defeat Morwenna while playing 5 aggressive creatures and having 20. And then the 3-star one is like the insanity mode, which I believe for Morwenna it is defeat Morwenna using a deck that only contains creatures.
Okay, so you take
doable, but probably
you take a constructed deck into this.
But you're definitely going to need to do some.
You take constructed decks into it.
You know, if you sort of peel back a layer and have a look at it, what it actually is this is a really nice way to introduce people to making decks to solve problems.
Yeah,
I really like that.
Even in Hearthstone, that was something I always liked, was the heroic modes where it actually was very difficult to beat the bosses.
Yeah. Legit, later on, some of them are I'm not going to spoil the Bandit King, but he's been crazy difficult. There's some that are really, really quite challenging.
Okay, I'm looking forward to, like, just from a, like, who can do this the fastest from day 0. Like, that'll be...
It's going to be wicked.
It's going to be so good.
Yeah, that sounds really, really fun. I'm glad you came on, because I think you're pointing out, like, what's actually, like, the more interesting thing to talk about here, which is, like, the boss modes, the fights, and obviously you can spoil a bit of those as well, but that sounds... Like, that's exactly what I want from a campaign.
Yeah, for real, that's what we did. You know, we all sat down and we all just basically said, like, what would actually... Like, we don't just want to do go fight the drunken pirate. He plays Pirate Ariane. It's on Karamka. He's a pirate. Hey! Like, we didn't just want to do that. We wanted to be like, okay, how can we actually sit down, give you something to think about, And one of the things that... So from another game, one of the things that really inspired my personal leanings on it is I really like the... I don't know if any of you played Duelist. There's lethal puzzles on that. So they'll basically give you a setup board. They'll give you like a board state and they'll say, okay, you've got 1 turn, win this game.
Yeah.
And I really like that as an inspiration. I really like that. And so personally, when I was thinking about it, I used that as a bit of inspiration. And we came up with just like puzzles that you have to think about and you have to solve and you have conditions presented to you. And it's a lot of fun. It's really fun. The reaction we got at RuneFest, and obviously, I'm never going to say anything to the opposite because it's essentially a job. But legitimately, the reaction we got from people playing at RuneFest was just insane. People loved it. Like, we had people who'd never played Chronicle give it a go, and then they'd go to whatever talk they were going, and they would be back in the room, like, racing, because we only had it playable on these 2 giant touchscreen TVs.
Oh, wow.
And we legitimately had people, like, racing back to get on the TVs to continue playing the campaign. It was really awesome to see. And they were playing it with basic decks, and I was standing there like, massive. It was really good.
But, like, did you have, like, the game playable on any other systems? Not necessarily the campaign, but...
Oh, hang on, sorry. I've just got, like, my girlfriend, and she's not... I will answer that question in a moment.
All right. So I think to summarize this, it's we can say campaign mode, really cool. That's what it's supposed to be. Cool fights against cool enemies with cool cards that are different, and that is, and that's a great way for one, just to be an awesome single player experience, but 2, as Merchant mentioned, to introduce new players to deck building and solving problems, as he said. And I think that's important for the game to grow, right? Like a good single player mode. It's like where a lot of new players will go first, right? When you pick up a new game, you often, before you go to multiplayer, you go straight to single player. And if there isn't a single player, maybe that's a bit like, oh, I'm not sure here. But like, I think that's a great way to effectively, I'm just going to say it, onboard new players, right?
Yeah, you're 100% correct.
Is going for.
The thing is, like, at the end of the day, we have to be realistic. And one of the main audiences that will look at our game is RuneScape players. And RuneScape is obviously a game with this amazing quest scene, it's so much PvE content there. And we essentially were selling a hardcore PvP card game to an audience that might only be interested in PvE.
Yeah.
And so the campaign's going to do a ton of stuff. In answer to your original question, which I think was it playable on any other platforms?
Yeah.
So at RuneFest, no, we just took it on PCs just for like build stability and stuff.
Oh, I mean, like, did you have any other PCs just going like?
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah. No, we had our two big. I don't know if you've seen the pictures, like the big touchscreen plinths. We have this like big Chronicle prop. It's like a big touchscreen thing.
Oh, yeah, I think I've seen that.
I wish I could have gone to RuneFest.
It's really cool. It's like this big stone table and stuff, and also we just had like classic bank of PCs kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm just interested to hear like I wonder what people's reaction were to the game. Like, I mean, I think it's really interesting to watch streams of people who've never played the game before, providing they have a webcam and a microphone, because then like just hearing their thoughts on the game, like a perspective that I don't necessarily see. Yeah. I think that's really fun.
Really interesting, because obviously like I like to think that casually I talk to you guys a lot, like on the Discord and stuff, and obviously on the team we're all well into it, and then you're right, it's when all of a sudden you're faced with a bunch of people who you have to explain what Chronicle is to them again. It's like, oh yeah, you don't actually know what I mean if I say Papa like explain something to them. But that's really great. Like, it's so important to see that stuff, because it's so easy, and I'm guilty of it as well. It's so easy to get bogged down into that mindset of like, everybody is a pro at this game. Like, all of us in the Twitch chat, we know basically everything about this game. We can talk about it fluently. So it's actually pretty cool when you see somebody like experiencing it for the first time. Yeah. And what we have seen is that first time experience, once with campaign, is just so positive. They were loving it. Absolutely loving it.
Really looking forward to this. I think it's really interesting how like there's those two groups of players, us like bitching about the interaction between Count Draenor and Sentinel or something like that, and people who don't even know what those cards are.
There's that level of stuff where I'm sitting there like getting sweaty and raging about like Dagon Fledgling, Scarface P, and then there's like the guys just like, yeah, I pulled a balance elemental. It's the coolest card ever.
So balanced, yeah.
Like, a little bit, yeah, sure. No, it's cool to see. It was really great. RuneFest was fantastic. Action was legitimately awesome.
So I think that summarizes that then. Awesome single player experience coming, which is good in and of itself, but also a great way to introduce new players. A lot of new players come along. I want that single player experience. Chronicle doesn't have that yet. Here it is, and it's going to introduce you to deck building, and it's going to be really fun. So I think that's really good for the game. What's coming up next, though? Ryan?
I am not Ryan.
Whoops.
Thanks for popping by.
Question about campaign, but I will be in the chat, so if anybody has any other questions, do tag me away and I'll answer them. Anyway,
thanks very much,
Thanks for having me on.
See ya.
Thank you.
Okay, right. We're moving on to our next section, and that is card changes. And we're starting. We decided to talk about this because apparently the next batch of balancing changes are going to do with the rubies and redesigning a few, buffing a few. So we've picked out a number of rubies to talk about tonight. And the first one on the screen is Ice Troll. So do you want to start us off, Interjection?
Well,
first of all, what is wrong with this card?
Firstly, though, what the fuck even is this card?
What a good card.
A 5/9.
Just in my hurl weapon.
Right. So question number one. Yeah. So hull weapon. Right. That's the only interesting thing, and that in and of it, that's not even like interest. That's not a deck, or it shouldn't be. Well, maybe it should be, but like I don't know. Like, so okay, this card is completely ridiculous. You're never going to play it unless you build that funky hurl weapon deck, right? A 2/6 weapon. What's that useful for? Like 2/6? No, like Medjcar is a card. Like, surely you would kill that before you kill Ice Troll and get the 3/3 weapon, because I mean, surely, yes, this has more durability, but I don't think that's hugely useful. I think like how would you make this better?
Delete it.
Is the question. Well, yeah, I feel like it would be better then.
Make it 10 health so Van Escala can avoid your opponent.
That's valid too. Okay, so I think like the real thing to talk about is that weapon, right? Could you make that
more desirable?
Like any better to make? And I think like no. So if you make that a bigger weapon, like as in more durability, you're just making it the cheesy hurl weapon deck even cheesier. And if you increase the attack on that weapon, well, what's the point? Like, Tormented Demon exists, and a 4-2 weapon and 1 base attack is way better, right? Like, there's nothing you could do to make this weapon, like, better. So it's not very interesting to say, but I think this card just needs to be completely rewritten. And I don't necessarily know what that means. I'm just going to see if we thought about anything. Yeah, total rework.
Yeah, we don't know what it could be, but yeah, it's...
Why is this a ruby? Like, what?
Yeah, it's a bit silly. I don't know what to really do with this card.
Maybe it is a troll card. Like, maybe that's just it. Like, maybe the value. Maybe we should just write Kappa on the card text. And it's great. I just don't know. There's nothing you can do here. Like, I don't think like adjusting the weapon is interesting at all. There's already good weapons in the game, and like, yeah, it's a whole weapon deck, but like, I don't know.
I think.
I mean, you could make the body smaller, but
no, it doesn't really change much. I think we delegate this one to Jagex to think about.
What does Ice Troll do?
Yeah, it's a good way of looking at it.
It's an ice troll. There are lots of them, and you sometimes kill them for a Slayer task. At least in old school.
Again, why the fuck is this a ruby, right? Like, if an ice troll is this random mob and there's lots of them, like, why is this a ruby? Like, it's not special like Jad or Krill or Commander Ziliana, which are actually bosses. Like,
Merchants just said also my face when you don't all know, you all don't even know about the 80+ cards we're planning to buff. I mean, nothing, Kappa.
This is gonna be good.
80+
Whoa.
cards. Okay, I'm really excited for that. I'd like to know what those are, and hopefully we'll cover some of them and maybe the ways they'll even change them. We've only got 15 Ruby cards today, but I think you mentioned earlier, Unforgiven, in a private discussion with me, that Ice Troll, you can get like a Granite Shield off of it.
Yeah, you can.
So maybe like an armor reward seems appropriate. I don't know. Like, but
yeah, let's move on
about this. It's
we're gonna I think we're done with Ice Troll.
This is probably the least interesting card on the list, and I think everything else we have a lot to say that's very interesting. So the reason we're even doing this is because I think Jagex mentioned and Merchant just mentioned in the chat, perhaps 80+ cards plan to be changed, and certainly the next balancing consideration will be to some of the really terrible rubies in the game. I think like getting a ruby should feel like a positive experience rather than I can disenchant this for a sapphire for a few steps, like something that's actually like useful. Like your ruby should be like, oh, that's actually pretty good. And Ice Troll does not achieve that, and I'm waiting now.
It's Mel's Other Mad.
What is it? Oh, baby.
Now this is one that used to be an absolute scourge in its original form when it was comboed with Yoga Shaman, and now it's an average engineering card at best.
So, I think here the point to be made is that, as you mentioned, it used to add 3 cabbages to your hand. That was insane, right? Like for a 2/5, you could effectively make them like lose 3 cards. So effectively, Scarface Pete for 2/5. Not quite like that, but it, effectively blocked draws, which might be worse than discarding. Anyway, it doesn't do that anymore. It adds 1 Tainted Cabbage to rival's hand, which is not really an issue most of the time, unless like your opponent is drawing a lot of cards, but they probably won't be. Having that,
and even then it only blocks 1.
Yeah, add 3 Tainted Cabbages to your rival's deck. Like, that is better than it sounds, because you start the game with 6 or 7 cards, you then draw 3 on the start of your next chapter, and a lot of the time people do like to draw cards with White Wolf or Cransy Warrior or whatever it is, right? So actually the cabbage density in your deck is going to be quite high after they play density. That's a term. But like, this will never be slot efficient compared to Scarface Pete, right? Like, discarding 3 cards from your opponent's hand straight up is way better than potentially blocking.
But
like, a
what if you do Scarface into Melazar?
Then you're an idiot.
PogChamp.
Yeah. So basically, this comes down to no longer being slot efficient, right? Yeah. And I wonder how you would fix that. Could you increase the amount of cabbages it puts in the deck? Increase the cabbage density? Perhaps you reduce the stats to make it like, make this effect more palatable on like if it was on a lower, less health creature, then like a 2/2 or something. Like, And I don't see any reason why Melzar should be a strong character. It's not like, he's a mad old guy. Why would he be strong? I mean, he's pretty good at summoning things, but they're mostly rotten cabbages, which aren't particularly frightening. From the quest, Dragon Slayer, like, he's not a hard foe to beat, right? Like, so maybe being a very low stat line creature with this very same effect would be pretty cool. But yeah, as a 2/5, I don't think this is good enough. And as a 2/5, it probably needs to do more. So I feel like add 4 tainted cabbages, or maybe have a 2-gold reward or something like that. I don't know what you guys think though, but yeah, this is not slot efficient, and that's the issue it currently has, right?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I find it very hard to evaluate effects like this that affect the deck, but yeah, I don't really know. Like, it could give 2 gold, but that wouldn't really change anything, would it?
No, I don't think.
Like, all you could do to make it better would make it more cabbages, but...
Yeah, well, 2 gold is like, at that point, this is suddenly like semi-playable. 2 gold is a lot better than 1. Yeah, like... On a 2 gold on a if you've got 3 base attack, right? Like gaining 2 gold off a creature and this effect is not bad, especially if you run like Yoga Shaman in your deck as well as Rowdy Cannoneers. Like maybe this fits the aggro deck, but then again, probably not, especially now that they've added that 2 damage stealer gold monkey.
Zombie monkey.
Yeah, maybe.
No, not
right.
zombie monkey.
Yeah, the point is it's not good enough. Yeah.
Okay, well I think that's enough on Melzar. We're going to move on to a card that's rarely seen. I've come across it a couple of times. Automaton Guardian. It's a 4/10. Remove 4 health from your next creature and deal 4 damage to your rival.
Really interesting. Like, this card, like, right now, I just think it's a cool card. Like, I really like it. And I think with a little bit of tweaking, it could be very interesting. So, Glenn, I propose a question to you. All right. I just want to see what you say.
Can I, before you say this, just mention that it basically is effectively a Troll Chucker and Toxil effect in one card. Yeah. So it's reasonably slot efficient in that sense.
Okay.
Yep.
Glenn, what if this said draw 2 cards on it, as well as everything else?
That's a difficult one to evaluate.
Do you think? I think it would be insane.
To be honest, I can't see the real need or the point of having a 4 health reach on a card that is a 4/10. I'm not.
Yeah, but like,
if it had draw 2 cards on it, it would be it would definitely see a lot of play.
Yeah, because you can do shit like KGP.
It would almost be 3 cards in one at that point. Like I said, currently it's 2 cards in one. It would almost add basically an extra, really good card.
It would be really, really quite good then, actually.
It would be really slot efficient at that point.
I just want to point out, I'm not advocating for having.
So what's your thinking with that?
I don't actually think.
What's your thinking with that?
Idea. Well, I was just thinking, right? Like, this card is like pretty cool. It does like stuff, and if you just made it that much better, like that little bit better, it would be played in decks. Like, it would be be really, really strong. And I think Automaton Guardian like seems like the kind of card that could have draw on it. I just think like, yeah. So if it drew 2, you could like Slime Toes into it, and then if you on 3 base attack, kill a Jad, and you draw 2 as well. Like, it's actually insane. But yeah, I don't actually think drawing 2 would be a good idea on that. I think though, like increasing like maybe the amount of damage it does to the next creature and to your rival though. What do you think of that? I think you had some thoughts on it, Unforgiven.
Yeah, so I thought, wouldn't it be kind of more interesting if it suddenly dealt 5 damage to our next creature? It would mean that you could kill Chads at 2 base, you could kill 10 health creatures like Mithril Dragons at 5 base into this. I think that would do surprisingly much for this card in a mid-range style of deck.
Yeah, and the 4 damage on it, which would then be 5, assuming maybe.
Yeah, like, potentially.
Yeah, and that's like Ketzek kind of damage as well. Not quite, because you don't get that 2 armor reward either. But like this, I just want to point out, this card only needs like a tiny smidgen of like improvement for it to be like really good.
I thought I'd seen this played on ladder, and Goth has pointed out that she does. She says it's the mid-range Vanessa Dream. It's reach, damage, and a worthy opponent enabler.
Yeah, it's really good in Vanessa. I can see that.
It does stuff around like it has effects, but it doesn't do quite a lot of things for it to quite make the cut for a lot of.
Yeah.
Like, what it would make the cut for is the mid-range type of decks, like the hybrids and whatnot.
Yeah. So there's that, and I think that's all there is to say. So you could either you just need to add something. Maybe it's draw. I don't think it is, or maybe you make it more efficient, make it deal more damage, or more health.
It just needs a little, just a little buff, I think, and then it'll see some play.
Yeah, and this card is really cool. Especially in a world where Count Draenor exists and there's no diversity in terms of what reach is currently available because you just play Count Draenor. But
okay, next up we have got one of the old school cards, Cerberus, which is just not played at all.
So let's preface this with what Markaz said.
It's a good place to start.
He said to us, this is one of the first cards he designed, I guess, and he feels as if he was a bit too maybe timid, maybe didn't give this quite enough, didn't do quite enough for this, and as a result, the card ended up not being very good, and basically it's no good, right? There are cards that already give you this kind of reach that are just better than it. Slime Toes is better, Count Draenor is better. This effect is no good on a creature that size. The 2 gold isn't particularly interesting, and 3 life is not really interesting either. So it needs more. And I wonder what you would do to Cerberus to make it interesting, to keep it interesting, and to keep its flavor. Right? It's a 7/9 creature. It's very big, and you could make deal 3 damage to all your creatures in play pretty good if you made Cerberus a 2/9, or just reduced its stat line somewhat. You could make that really strong, but then. It's fucking Cerberus. This thing is a massive.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense that it would have such a low attack.
It's a high tier boss monster.
So, when editing this card, you want to keep its stat line intact, and I wonder what you would change about it. My initial thoughts were, well, maybe you put a base attack on it instead of 2 gold or something like that. But then you just end up with Dagannoth Sentinel 2.0, and it's just exactly the same card, pretty much, something like that.
Yeah. I don't really know what to do with this card. It just doesn't do currently enough for its stats. But I don't know what would be an interesting effect to have. Maybe increase the damage it deals to creatures in play.
Yeah, currently there is no creature outside of Kale that deals damage to everything in play except
Lava Dragon.
Yeah, Lava Dragon. but Cerberus is it's a cool mechanic affecting everything, right? And I like that about it. It just doesn't see any play yet. So maybe it needs more of a life reward. Maybe you should just increase the life reward so that 2-hit killing this is actually semi-viable rather than just being not viable at all currently.
Yeah, currently it's quite bad.
Yeah, make it good enough at this stat line to be an alternative to Count Draenor, in the sense that you might want to either 2-hit or 3-hit kill this. I don't really think you want to do that, given that it has 7 attack.
It's too risky.
But if you improve the life reward on it, you might want to do that, and then suddenly this is maybe a reasonable alternative to. The problem is it will always be very, very, very hard to beat Count Draenor, which might be too strong currently. And I think Cerberus will never be able to compete with that, even if you do increase the health reward on it. But I think that's a good place to start, perhaps.
Cerberus currently doesn't compete with a lot of other cards either, like Slime Toes.
Its reach. It just doesn't compete with some of the other basic sets, which is more necessarily. But probably more of a problem with the basic set itself. But okay, next up we've got Barkatoad. Now, I want to start off with this one. I think Barkatoad is actually fine the way it is. I think. The problem in the Rowdy Cannoneer Barkatoad combo is the fact that the Rowdy Cannoneer does too much.
You just are repeating what we said earlier.
No, I wasn't in the call when you were talking about this. No.
You're not in the.
Okay, all right.
All right. Well, yeah. Minds think alike. I'll let you off.
I was talking to Merchant about this combo a couple of weeks ago, and he actually said that if you want to run something like a Barkatoad, he feels that you should have to play something like a Pirate's Hideout. And the Rowdy Cannoneer is really good. Is a good aggro card as it is, and then plus, oh by the way, it gives you an extra potential 7 damage. And it's just doing too much.
Yeah, and turns out 7 damage for 1 gold is quite a bit.
But I think if you take away the extra effect from the Rowdy Cannoneer, you then have to commit more for the setup for the Barkatoad, and I think that's okay.
Yeah, so if we assume you wouldn't run. Let's assume current Rowdy Cannoneer doesn't exist. There are actually not that many good ways of gaining Cannon Boss that you would want to put in your deck. And if you are running those cards, these cards becomes much less oppressive, and it's fine.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think, like, it's clear the Rowdy Cannoneer Barker-Toad combo is too good, right? And the problem card there, Makaza said this as well, and you guys are saying this as well, is the problem is Rowdy Cannoneer. It's a good aggro card. It's basically Haunted Soul, and it gives you, as you mentioned, Barker-Toad as well, and that's too much. And at first, I did think Rowdy Cannoneer was the problem, but then when you phrase this question differently and say, all right, is Barker-Toad still a good card? Let's just delete Rowdy Cannoneer from the game. Let's pretend that doesn't exist for a moment and say, all right, I want to run Barker-Toad, but now I have to play, I don't know, South Sea Pillager. I think that steals 2 gold, actually, that one. But, you know, one of the... Oh, yeah, and he does give you 2 cannonballs. Yeah, so, like, one of those. Is it still good then? Like, maybe, like... It's certainly like
it would at least not go in every aggro deck, but it would still go in those decks that run those other cards besides.
Because at the moment, this is just a 2-card combo, right?
Yeah.
So I think what I'm saying is 1 gold for 7 damage is fine, given that you have to spend a cannonball, but only if Rowdy Cannoneer is addressed, and I think that's the problem card there. But yeah, like I just wanted to talk about this isn't necessarily a card that needs improving, which is the theme of what we're talking about. We're talking about cards that need improving, but I also want to talk about like some interesting, like perhaps very strong rubies as well that might also need changing, but in the opposite direction. So yeah, I think that concludes Barker-Toad. And
next we move on to Virago Light, and that is General Grador.
All right, well that's all there is to say about it.
It's a guy.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure why we put this on the list. My notes, I don't have any notes written for this. It's basically Virago Light. Yeah. That's what it does, right? It gives you a big weapon, and it's a creature to kill. I don't really know what there is to say about it.
What could you do to? Because it doesn't see play at all.
Well, the only time you'd ever play it right is where you'd currently put Virago. And
why would you?
Virago, so basically, the only reason you'd run it is because you don't have Virago, or maybe you run like
make it 8 attack weapon. I'm sure. That's a good idea.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. Well, then we have the Tetsuki Katana. Yeah, that's true.
Fair Katana of balance.
Right. Like, I don't think that's... Yeah, so I wonder, like, the only time you'd really ever play this is maybe you run Virago and General Grado, just in case, like, they discard one of them and you still want that big fight weapon.
That's when you're really paranoid about Pete.
I don't think comparison to Virago is fair, though, because Virago is a bit ridiculous right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're probably right.
So...
Okay, I think
there's something to be said about all of the God Wars cards, right? Like they all drop weapons.
What are the other God Wars cards?
So General Gardo, you've got Commander Ziliana, who drops 7 gold, which in theory you should pay for your God Sword with. So there's that. You have Krill Zeroth, who is going to kill I think he's the Zamarakian God Wars. Then there's
Kuriara,
who gives you a 6/2 weapon and 3 temporary attack, which is complete garbage. The temporary attack clearly is supposed to symbolize I think it's called the Justice on that God Sword.
Okay.
Where you do 50% extra damage. And then finally there's one more. Actually, I don't think there is. I think that's all of them. Like, they're all pretty lackluster, right? And I think they all need to be made much more interesting. Like, currently, as it stands in Chronicle RuneScape Legends, getting a 7/3 weapon in the middle of a chapter just isn't that useful, unless you're immediately going to strike with it, or you're
unless you're a Weapon Linza, but Weapon Linza doesn't kill a Garador.
Yeah, so, like, the only reason you want this weapon is Final Fight, or you're going to kill a big creature right afterwards. But, like, if you're going to kill a big creature, then why did you just...
why did you just kill Garador?
Yeah, so you could just kill the big creature. It doesn't make any sense, right? And there's no creatures like bigger than Grado. There is like
Bilrak.
But what if you do a Revenant Dark?
But you don't need a 7/3 weapon to kill. Yeah, and then that's the final thing, right? Is getting this weapon and then striking them with it. But like there are better alternatives to doing that as well. I feel so. I don't know. You need to make this like I like the God Wars sword, like God Sword, I think they call them. I like that about it, but it's just not a good card and it's not interesting. So I think like something needs to be done to make like the God Wars bosses like really cool, but I don't know what that would be. And I think that's the big problem when it comes to like designing cards. Like you know there's a problem there, But it's like, where's the solution? And I think that now we're doing that. We're having a taste of what Jagex must experience every time they try to create new cards or rebalance problem ones.
Yeah.
Well, there are some cards I really have great ideas for, but General Grada isn't one of them.
Yeah, so I mean, the only way I would do something for this, I think what it could do is maybe drop armor and or base attack. It would be somewhat flavorful for the Bandos armor, at least in RuneScape, and would make it a bit better while at it. But I don't think that would make it great or interesting either, so...
Yeah, like I think some things like Kriara, for example, like you kill it and maybe it adds the... Like just having like the Godsword special attack in your hand, that seems really cool. Like maybe this could add something to your hand.
We were talking about like cards adding things to your hand when we were talking about potential redesigns for Kale.
I've got it.
Go on.
Got it. Go ahead, Glenn. All right, here we got it right. You kill General Grado, and it adds 3 cards to your hand. 3 like an ancient spellbook or a lunar spellbook, right? There's this big creature requirement that you have to kill to get the sweet rewards behind it, and the rewards are the 7/3 weapon, which is clearly the Bandos Godsword. I'm holding my fingers up here.
Yeah, we can't see your count.
You can't see me, so it doesn't matter. Right, number 2, still on my fingers, is the armor that Unforgiven mentioned. You get like a really insane armor gain card. Like
the one thing to point out about the Bandos armor at this point, I think in the RuneScape, it's offensive armor set, which doesn't have the greatest of defenses. Obviously, it's a high-level armor, so it's not terrible.
Okay, so that's even better, right? You get like an armor card that gives you base attack. Like that's insane. That's really cool. You get you kill this creature, you get a massive all weapon, which is really useful for reaching into something. You get armor and AP on it, and then maybe something else as well. I think that's exactly it, right? Like that's where the God Wars cards should be going. Like you get all the awesome drops from RuneScape. The reason you kill these creatures is for those amazing drops they give that you can sell on the GE.
Yeah.
Right? You should just straight
really
up
like
get them
that
in
idea,
Chronicle.
actually.
That's exactly what it
and
was.
it's one of the most iconic and most popular bossing contents in RuneScape ever, and they get his crap in Chronicle.
Ancient and Lunar Spellbook are as cards. Jagex nailed those. Like you get 4 amazing cool cards. Like you get those cards in your hand as a new player, and you're like, oh baby, these are pretty. Yeah, like the God Wars bosses are another opportunity to do exactly that, right? To put some really awesome cards in your hand that you can just play and be like really satisfied because you played this awesome card that's really strong. Like that's exactly where General Grada and the rest of the God Wars bosses should go, except maybe for Ziliana, who is perhaps I don't know, maybe. Yeah, so that's my take on it, and I think that's pretty good.
No, I like that idea.
I'd really like to see what the chat say. Maybe I'm just like, because it was my idea. I think this is way cooler.
No. I'll call you out on bullshit. Like, don't worry about
agree,
that. I think that's a good idea.
It's cool. Yeah, it's the spellbooks have shown it's cool and interesting to have these set cards that you gain through some way, and
you can make them a little bit. You can make them a little bit more powerful as well because that you can because they're signposted, like the spells.
And these cards do obviously need something to be done. Like they are not cool, they are not good, they are crap.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And on that note,
right, so I think that summarizes.
We're going to move on to Dragon's Nern.
Okay, so when this first came out, for those that don't know, I think it read. I think it either discarded one or it didn't discard.
It was exactly the same, except it didn't discard. They just added that part of the text.
So it was a 3/2, draw 2 undead cards and gain 1 base attack.
Yeah,
it was like the most temporary attack. It was the most insane card ever, and like I think you and me.
I don't think it was the most insane card ever. It was obviously very good card, and people panicked for it, and partly for a reason, yes, and there were good decks that used it, and it got almost instantly nerfed to what it is now and never saw play again.
Pretty much.
I think like one of the J mods on the stats team noticed something very, very strong about it. For example, your weapon Linzer, I think that ran this, and just drawing double barrel chests.
Nern into penguin
ship. Really, really strong, and just. So currently now it doesn't see any play outside of as a Morgul deck, because like there's nothing to be gained here. It's not slot efficient. Like replacing 2 random cards in your hand with 2 undead cards, like the utility there isn't very high, especially since a lot of the time you do not want to discard cards, especially particular ones in your hand. So there's no control over what you discard here either. So that like makes it KGP.
Yeah, anyone who plays KGP Agent ever, so every player ever knows the pain.
Yeah. So like it's not good for that reason. Like it's just not slot efficient. Like you don't draw enough like outside of like trying to set up the bullshit cheesy Zamorgul combo. And gaining 1 temporary attack is interesting.
It's not even good for that combo because those combo decks tend to have undead in their hand already. So and you're playing an undead to draw undead. Like you would have to discard non-undead cards for it to work.
Yeah, but you play it in that deck, for the chance of that, but also just to thin the deck out and draw Zamorgul sooner, right? Like you're replacing.
Like, and then you discard your Zamorgul.
But like, imagine if this was like playable, right? In a world where this is playable, in 1 attack Ariane, drawing 2 undead is really good. There's a lot of undead in Ariane, and you get 1 temporary attack as well, which if you're on 1 base attack, you could potentially spend on Penguin Sheep or something else that you spend your base attack. I think that's really interesting. So the question here is, how do you make this card like playable? Because currently it's not good enough. And I think the answer is, well, you could reduce the amount of cards it discards, but then
that was the first thing I would have done is
so tell us about
make it discard. Either completely revert the nerf, because I didn't personally think it was too strong, or at least make it only discard one. That's the obvious one.
Dragith Gnome was apparently a necromancer, so how about draw 1 undead per creature killed this turn?
Yeah, so kind of like a Slayer task kind of thing. And back then, like, they didn't have that infrastructure in place. Like, that wasn't a mechanic. But now they do, and I actually think that like an undead Slayer task is really interesting, and it would be like kind of like a neutral Slayer task as well. You don't need to name it.
No. Well, I mean, it'd be like Hollowtooth. Like Hollowtooth has an effect like a Slayer task, but isn't a Slayer task. So
yeah, I feel like that like kind of spoils the realms of Morvaran, which belongs in Morvaran, but equally, I think it's okay to have 1 card, and I think Dragith Nern, if you're going to do it to a card, is the card you do that to. Yeah, I really like that idea. I think that's really, I think it makes it interesting again, and I like that about it. So,
cheers for that idea, Tor.
Anything else to add?
No, I'm all done with that one.
The only question about that would it be too good, but I guess that doesn't really add anything to the discussion.
Right. Next up is a card that I know Ryan mentioned in his potential nerf or game change video, but I think we have different ideas on what we'd do to it. Count Draenor. It's a 3/5 steal up to 4 health from your next creature. What I want to do to this, I think a 4 reach shouldn't be as easily accessible as this for any card on the game. Like we saw it was a problem with Kale. And I think Count Draenor is almost at that level. I think if you change it down to a Steel 3, I think it'll still be a very good card, but it then also leaves room for designing other reach cards.
Yeah. Well, to preface this, the theme of this discussion is to improve bad cards, which Jagex is doing, but we also wanted to talk about some cards that are perhaps quite strong. Now, I know Unforgiven doesn't necessarily agree with what I'm about to say. Or what you just said, but I do think Count Draenor is a bit strong at the moment for what it does, right? Any reach in the game that you make, that like brand new cards that do reach, or existing class cards that are reach, are usually overshadowed by Count Draenor, which is very, very good, right? So how do you fix that? I think like stealing 4, like it heals you for 4 and deals 4. I think that's a lot of work in a single card. It's incredibly slot efficient, right? Like it's Cabbage and it's a like Toxil in the same slot. Like it does a lot of work. So how would you change that? Now, Unforgiven doesn't necessarily think you should, and he'll talk about that in a moment, I'm sure. But like I don't think you can adjust the stat line at all on Count Draenor, because the second you do that, you make it like if you add health or attack. Like currently, you can't like if you're on 3 base attack and at full life, or you have more than 3 base attack at full life. This hits you back once, and then you only steal 3. Whereas if you make it like any bigger of a creature, you can always get it to work all of the time, because it'll hit you back for more than 3. It'll hit you back for the. So I think changing the stat line doesn't work because of that reason. So I do wonder what would happen if you change it to Steel 3. Like, maybe it would be no good then, but certainly what it would do is make a lot of the Reach cards that are not seeing any play.
Yeah, I think it would
for example,
it would improve the variety around in the game.
Yeah, exactly. Variety. That's exactly it. Safe spot. All of these cards that are there, they don't use. They like a lot of them don't see as much play as they perhaps ought to because Count Draenor exists, and I think that is a problem.
And that is true. But at the same time, I think what that actually would mean is that while yes, currently Count Draenor is the go-to, that would mean that Count Draenor would be a card you'd never play again if it's Steel 3. I don't think you'd always play your Monolith Chambers, Safe Spot, or Toxil over it.
And maybe that's a good thing. Like maybe I'm arguing that I'm advocating for that, like in the same way that Fledgling's gone, right?
Yeah, it increases diversity, but I don't approve with the Fledgling change either because of that reason. I don't approve with effectively deleting a card from Constructed. Now, I don't think Count Draenor needs to be changed personally, but if you would, I would go about it by increasing the stats. Now, you did say that, you can KGP Count Draenor into chat then because it hits you more than it currently does. But I think that doesn't happen enough, or it wouldn't be too strong that I don't think it would be a problem, because you'd obviously then net lose health. Like you can, whatever the stats would be, if say 6 attack, you'd lose 2 health net from killing it, or whatever the stats would be.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think currently it's fine, and there needs to be stronger reaches, and if it gets nerfed, it will only get replaced by other stable reaches and this card.
I think it's more a video I've got planned out, but it's more to do with the fact that it's more of a problem to do with the fact that the general collection is too strong, I think, and in general needs toning down to then allow room to use more class cards in Constructed. And I think so. Yeah, like
maybe it is. I'm just thinking like the only things you ever count Draenor into are like Jads and Ketzex and Sentinel, Scarface Pete. Like these are all cards that, except for Sentinel, that are not part of the basic collection. So I'm not sure, but yeah. So there's that. Unforgiven is about
they are all part. No, I'm on about they're all in the. I'm on about general collection. So not legend specific.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the general pool,
as opposed to like
the
neutral pool.
I think that as a set of cards is too strong.
You think like cards like Jad are the problem, and Draenor, rather than
No, I think Draenor is too strong, but then I think potentially Jad's too strong. Like
I think I've heard you talk about this before as well, where I don't think you can make that much of a drastic change anymore.
That's the other problem.
Chronicle has been out for a long time, and that would completely change the fundamentals of how ramping in this game works. And if we are going that deep, I think there are much bigger problems, for example, how weapons and weapon removal is balanced, that I would rather tackle. And I don't think this is a problem at all. There will always be the best option for ramping, and currently it just happens to be Count Draenor. It would either be Monolith Chamber or Toxil or whatever crap if this gets nerfed.
Yeah.
Except maybe the stats nerf wouldn't completely kill it, which is why I said it's the nerf I would do if this has to get nerfed.
And I think this is the kind of topic, as Glenn mentioned, a well thought out video would address well. But I think we've covered all the points that are to be mentioned on that. What is the next card?
We've got Chaos Elemental.
Oh,
now
baby.
This I want to take issue with the fact that this is never played. I've got a free to play video on my YouTube channel that proves that this is played.
By silvers and gold. Okay.
Hey. It worked. Right.
So, I just want to say, that hard counters are complete bullshit.
Yep.
And yes, this card doesn't see very much play at all because it's so damn big, but that doesn't change the fact that it has a ridiculous effect written on it that is just, silly in principle. Like, I don't really think any card should have the potential to just straight up remove, all of your armor and your weapon. But in and of itself, what is this card? Well, it's very big, and obviously it needs to be improved a bit, and maybe a complete redesign is needed, as I'm alluding to with the what's written on there. But currently, you could run it as the Equalizer in an AP Ariane. Now, currently, AP Ariane is more of a strike-based deck, but like, imagine the deck that goes to the final fight. You're up against Raptor, and then boom, Chaos Elemental comes down, remove all their armor from their Court Beast, remove their weapon from their Virago. You're good to go, and you have higher stats than them because, Chaos Elemental could do that, but I don't like really that effect on it. Like, an idea I had once was that maybe like in the same way that like Virago used to have an armor reward on it, and until recently, Hope Devour also had quite a large armor reward on it. Maybe Chaos Elemental should have some sort of life reward on it. Not necessarily armor. I don't think that fits the theme of Ariane very well, but like a 6 life reward, so you can 2-hit kill this thing and not hurt yourself. Like, I think a 6 health reward would be very nice if this card's going to stay the same. And I don't know about that gold. It's not particularly useful. Maybe you could even swap them out. So I think a health reward like helps this card, but at the end of the day, I think the more interesting thing to talk about here is like, what could those different effects be? Like, if we're going to change this and redesign it completely, what would this card do? And I think we came up with a few very interesting ones. What do you guys think?
Yeah, my idea for this, and I've mentioned it before. Now it plays off what Balance Elemental does, so it would effectively be the same effect as Balance Elemental.
Yeah,
but
I really
instead
like
of drawing the 5 cards from your own deck, you draw them from your opponent's deck. And now that would definitely be chaotic, so it kind of fits the theme of the card. And it's very interesting. I think it's a very interesting card. Like, it wouldn't necessarily see a lot of play at the highest level, but you could definitely see that card being played.
Some crazy stuff would happen.
I would really like that.
Yeah, so you discard, like, and maybe you're running like an AP. Like, imagine like they're playing Miracle Ariane or some deck that's dependent on the cards in their deck, and you're playing a deck where you've already built some stats and something like. Then you kill your Chaos Elemental that may or may not have this much health. Maybe it has a lot less health than this. Maybe it should be a 6/10 like Balance Elemental. But then like you discard all your cards and then draw. Like, maybe you should draw like 7 cards from their deck and they should draw 5 from yours or something, just to make it like that more palatable as a play. But like, then you draw a bunch of cards that like you could potentially use, like Wind Surge, Cabbage.
And I just say, imagine the Mill area. Mill Morbrand would have to stay aside.
But like, that's the interesting thing, right? Like, you could, like, that's a thing that you could do. Now, I don't necessarily, like, certainly it has, like, that would be chaotic, and this is a Chaos Elemental, but that doesn't fit with the flavor of RuneScape particularly well. Like, Chaos Ele, for those that don't know in RuneScape, is this boss in the wilderness that, like, keeps removing your equipment. It puts your equipment, like your attack, like your sword and your armor, back into your inventory unless your inventory's full. So, like, it's just annoying. And I think, like, remove weapon and all armor, like, that's the flavor there. I think that encapsulates what it actually does in RuneScape quite well. So I think the change should kind of encapsulate it better. Now, I think Unforgiven, you had an idea, which I think fits this a bit. No, that was my idea that fits this better. So my idea was...
my idea.
Imagine, right, let's say we all tried to come up with something that would, like, be different, right? So anyway, mine was like, all right, so let's make Chaos Elemental a much smaller creature. Or, I don't know, just a smaller creature, right? And the effect would be effectively what Silence is in Hearthstone, but not the... So basically what it would do is remove the rewards on all of your opponent's next creatures that chapter. So, for example, their Jad, it would remove the 4 armor and the 1 base attack. And I think that kind of fits with the Chaos Elemental RuneScape theme by removing, like, the, the equipment, which is effectively the rewards. Now, card text would still resolve, so Count Draenor would still steal 4 life.
Virago would still give you a massive
but the
weapon.
rewards are the things that are the interesting thing there. Like, it removes the rewards. And I thought that would be, like, a cool thing on a card. Jagex may not necessarily have the ability to make that card yet with their card building infrastructure, but, like, that's not the point, right? It's the idea is for discussion. I thought that was cool. What do you guys think?
Yeah, again, just some interesting ideas.
Yeah, I think it could be a bit on the strong side, but it's definitely an interesting idea and mechanic that could be done. And yeah.
Is it on the strong side though? Like, let's say it was a, I don't know, 6/10, right? So we'll make it, let's say it's like Scarface Pete stats, a 4/9.
If you hit any card that gives base attack, it's effectively a base attack removal, right? Which is pretty good.
That's that. Okay.
I guess it would
maybe it needs to be much bigger than Scarface.
Yeah, I mean, it would mean that there would be more skill to it, as in you have to hit the good cards, I guess. which would encourage good predictions and reads. But
I get a feeling that effect would be very, very strong.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a bad effect, probably, at least. Depends on the body size, of course.
Maybe it's 6-6. Let's just say it's a 6-16. Forget about the gold reward.
So same as current Ogre Brute, right? Current Ogre Brute is a 6-6, right?
No, he said 6-16.
Oh, no, this is a 6-16.
Oh.
Yeah, current Ogre Brute's not that big, no.
Oh.
Yeah, so would you kill a 6-16 to remove, like, you know, it removes the reward. So this wouldn't
Unless
work
there
on
is
stuff
something insane to snipe, like Grieflin's in Katana.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this wouldn't work on, like, Fuldarox, it wouldn't work on Virago, because they're all effects, they're not actual
But it would work on Virago, because it gives you a
thing...
3-3 base.
Yeah, but that's...
So it would get... but like, you couldn't buff the weapon, because you haven't got one.
No, but it's not... That's not true, though.
Say that because fuck Virago.
Yeah, it's fair point.
Yeah, so I think what Unforgiven's saying is Virago is a bad example to talk about anyway, because it's so strong. But Virago would still work though, Glenn, because it says equip a 3-3 weapon and gain attack.
Okay. It's not. It doesn't drop a 3-3 weapon and then gain. Okay.
Yeah, there isn't a 3-3 weapon
so
on
it would
Virago. It just adds it. Yeah. So, yeah, but that was an idea I thought fits with the flavor of Chaos Ellie. I don't know how you'd balance it in terms of stats, but, like, that's you know, now that idea's floating around, and I like that. And the final idea was, I think this was your idea? Oh, no, I don't know whose it was. Anyway.
I think I did mention it where, basically, at least in old school, if for whatever reason you would torture yourself by killing the Chaos Elemental, it teleports you around sometimes. So I had an idea, what if it could... swap at least some or potentially even all of the slots of the cards being played that chapter.
Yeah, so big old creature, and then it just says randomize the order of every card played.
Or maybe that would obviously be quite ridiculous. So maybe if we are a bit more realistic, something like swap your rivals next to slots, or for example.
But like the idea of randomizing like your opponent's things is like, yeah, again, Jagex probably can't do that right now because that mechanic isn't something they've built, but like that's not the point. It's just interesting to talk about. I feel like Chaos Ellie is like boring and not very good and has a problem child effect written on it anyway. And I think these are 3 different ideas that are potentially viable. And yes, I mean, Ariane already has some really good rubies like Luna Spellbook and Ancient Spellbook. So maybe Chaos Ellie could just have the fun factor written on it. But I think those are 3 good ideas. Just to recap them, the first was, one of them was deleting all of the rewards. The other was like basically balance elemental, but you draw from your rival's deck and they draw from yours. And the final one was randomizing stuff. They're all like potential ideas, right? And if anyone else has any better ideas, feel free to post them. But like that's the issue when you're talking about how to improve cards. It's coming up with an idea that's actually
talking of cool ideas that don't exist in the game at the moment. Alchemist. What now? I think we've got a really good idea for this, haven't we?
Yeah, I'd like to preface this and say, I think it was Torvarin, or no, it wasn't Torvarin. It was who's that? Oh god, we had him on the podcast not so long ago.
Judge Neo.
Yeah, Judge Neo came up with this. Now in RuneScape, Heme Alchemy, or just in general, Heme Alchemy is turning blood into gold. I believe it's effectively like blood alchemy. And what would be interesting is, I think like currently Heme Alchemist is really cheesy. Unforgiven earlier mentioned to me that it either hits or it completely fizzles.
Yeah.
And it's just this cheesy bullshit card.
I don't think that's very good thing to have where, I have this huge investment I've built up to, and then it either does literally nothing or it literally wins you the game. And this, while I say huge, 10 gold, it's a lot, but if it's your, say if you pay 10 gold, win the game, that's pretty good card, I'd say.
And sometimes it's pay 10 gold, do nothing, as you mentioned as well. So I think instead of this cheesy, weird, silly card that's like just silly, I think like, what if it was like mortal, gain some gold, right? Like Venescular currently, there isn't any card in the game that currently says if you are mortal, you can trigger this gold gaining effect. So I think that's a really cool card. Like this, if you are mortal, which has that blood theme to it that Venescula has, gaining some gold would be really cool. But how do you go about that is the question. Now, I think like the obvious one is, okay, you say if you're mortal, gain 5 gold, something like that, or maybe 4. I don't know where you'd balance that. But perhaps the more interesting one to say that is very difficult to balance, but is interesting nonetheless, is say something like gain 15 gold minus 1 for each hit point you have. So if you are barely alive on 1 life, you get that 15
14 gold in one slot.
14 gold, right? Now, obviously that's really, really, really strong, and I'm not saying that that's what this card ought to be, but I really do like that scaling idea where the amount of gold you get is dependent on how many life points you have, and the fewer life points you have, the stronger it is. I really, really like that, and I really think it fits a card like Heme Alchemist, where you're, like the amount of blood you have, you're turning into gold or something like that. I'm not sure how you would balance that kind of effect I just mentioned in a way that's actually
I've just thought of another idea for this. It's a mechanic that doesn't exist yet, so it would need coding in, but you could choose to spend a certain amount of health to gain that same amount of gold, but you get to choose from a range.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, like maybe do you have to be mortal for it to trigger?
Potentially,
or just
yeah. You could add the mortal effect to it, but
yeah, but I really like that. I think that encapsulates exactly what we're trying to say. Like you should be able to turn like your life into gold. Like that seems really cool. But then like, why is it not just mimic? I don't know. Like, it's hard to balance that. Somebody in the chat mentions why not just spend health to kill something, because that would be egregiously overpowered.
Spend health to pay for your next support.
Oh, for your next support. Sorry, I thought it was
No.
Well, that into something like vampire power would be ridiculous. Although it has the same concept though, right? And that's what we're going for here.
So, I'd love that. Heme Alchemist, the 0 cost spend health to pay for your next support. Then oh baby, that's really, really strong. It's the reason
that would be quite a good card.
You can print that card in Raptor though, because armor is like you don't start with 30 of that. Basically.
To be fair, that could actually work if you had to be mortal.
That could do then. Like then
it's massive high risk to pay for your vampire power.
Yeah, so if you're mortal and then you're like, oh, I'll just pay 13 gold for fucking... and then you're on 2 life, but then you get 10 life, don't you, off of the thing? So that's actually pretty interesting. I still think it might be a bit strong. Like, what would you do? Yeah. You just play something like I don't know, any card that like puts you at 15 life and like gives you a bit of armor. Say, I don't know, Sergeant Grimspike, and then Heme Alchemist vampire power into Cully or something. Well, I don't know what it would be, but hey, like the point is right.
I think the concept is there, like
yeah. So the concept is there, and the concept is blood man. Like this currently it's cheesy and dumb and a bit silly, and you can turn it into something really cool that's about spending life to gain gold or spending life to pay for your next support, something like that, right? Like there is no at the moment there is no card that says mortal gain gold, and I think Heme Alchemist is the perfect card to put some kind of effect like that on. So I think that summarizes our thoughts.
Right, we're going to move on. So we've got 2 more cards to go through because we've gone on quite a bit tonight. So we've got Direwolf is our penultimate card. So
yes, and I've had I think it's a fairly common opinion, at least around the Discord, but a lot of people have said that it should activate if you have a beast in your hand and you wouldn't have to spend it, which I personally agree with, because currently it's just way too awkward and it doesn't see play because of that.
So, no, I agree. Like Direwolf, the problem with it at the moment is the beast that you have in your hand you probably want to play because beasts are quite good.
Yeah, a lot of the time.
Like you never ever want to discard your beast. Every beast in your hand is good. You don't put bad beasts in your deck just to go, oh, I want to trigger my Direwolf, so I'm going to run a bunny. No, you only... but even then, like you always want like these cards, like Unicorn. You never want to discard that. You never want to discard like and that's the problem. Like Direwolf is too punishing, especially since it's a 7/4, which is not a KGP agent, which is a 1/2, right? So like you discard something, yeah, it's a bit more targeted, but sometimes that's worse because it's targeted. Sometimes you'd rather keep that unicorn, but like you need to run Direwolf because it's a low health way to get your base attack up. So Unforgiven, what Unforgiven mentions is that like the fact you have to discard it is too good. So what if it was instead? Go ahead.
I would like to point out if with the effect of having beasts in your hand, it would still mean that you wouldn't be able to play that beast the same chapter as Direwolf. So it would mean that you would have to either hold on to your White Wolf or whatever you have, or you really need to play that Direwolf into Unicorn, but the Unicorn is your only beast, and feels bad, man. Like it wouldn't be as ridiculous as people might think at first.
Yeah, if it was just if you have one beast in your hand, as opposed to spend. So if you have a beast in your hand, gain 1 base attack when you kill this, that's too good, right? Like any deck, even a Bleeding Raptor deck has like a beast kicking around. Like I feel like that's not flavorful. So yeah, it needs to be 2. I feel like 2 is where that ought to be. And as Unforgiven mentioned, sometimes you'll not play an optimal chapter because you can't, because you have, if you want your Direwolf to trigger, you have to keep your beast in your hand. You can't play at that chapter. So it's not actually as strong as...
Well, I think it could be balanced with 1 as well, but 2 I think would still be acceptable, and it would mean that you would actually have to play a beast deck, yes.
Yeah.
And instead of just playing any random AP build.
And anyone who's looking at us and saying, well, that sounds really, really strong, I think we can all see that Morvaran probably needs a bit of love at the moment. Certainly are some strong decks kicking around. Gothgirl did get rank 1 with a Morvaran deck, but... it's certainly
Morvaran by name only.
And it was hardly a Morvaran deck, given the number of Morvaran cards that were actually not in it. But yeah, that aside, I think if you have 2 beasts, game 1 base attack, I think that's flavorful. Like it retains the fact that you have to have beasts in your deck. And maybe you can, if you're reliably going to be able to draw beasts, maybe you can play a full chapter. And you play your White Wolf into Direwolf. You draw the beast that you then need to have in your hand for a Direwolf to trigger.
Nice.
Right? Like that adds an element to playing the Direwolf that I think is really interesting that currently isn't there as well. So I think Direwolf does need a touch of love. I think Morvaran really does need that sort of early game base attack, and I think Direwolf is that. But at the moment, it's not strong enough. I think.
Right. We got moving on to our final card. It's one I think we all agree needs to come back into the game.
Oh, did you say the best to last?
Baby, it's Fern.
Fern. Good luck. Have fun. So let's preface this.
This card used to be very there.
This card used to be ridiculous. It was very, very strong.
It was a 4/3.
The reason
add
being
4 health to your rival's next creature.
That's right. A 4/3. So 2 less health and an extra health.
You'd play it in 1 AP.
Yeah.
That's how good it was.
Yeah. And as it turns out, playing around 4 health is so much harder than it is playing around 3. And like this was clearly like over-nerfed. Nobody runs it. And even when like, for example, Mod Merchant might say, oh, maybe people will start teching Fern. Yeah, maybe. I don't think they will, though. I just don't think Fern's, like, good enough. Like, I've definitely thought about teching Fern, but almost always come to the conclusion that it's not worth it. It's not worth the risk. This card isn't strong enough. There are better aggro alternatives, especially since this is a 4-pissing 5, right? That's really big. And it's just, like, I just don't think it was good enough. So what Jagex did is they changed it from adding 4 health to Rival's next creature to changing 3, and they increased its attack. I think, like, only one of those things was really needed. And for me, I think the fact that you could add 4 health to your rival's next creature, that's huge. I think that was the issue. I think Jagex got that right and changed that. I think 4 was a bit too much. It's very difficult to play around 4. Like, you can't just, like, equip a slime to his weapon and then go, yep, okay, I'm playing around it now. Like, I think 3 is where this card ought to be, but the stat line ought to have stayed
just too big
same.
at the moment.
And I don't know if you guys have the same opinion as me.
I think if it would be 4/3, it would be played in pretty much every 3 AP aggro deck, but I don't know if I would even mind that. Maybe instead of nerfing Count Rainer, you buff Fern. How about that? It's suddenly much more dangerous to Count Rainer into Chad. Like, when Fern was played, you'd have to play around Fern a lot. You have to be very careful of how you place your creatures, because Fern could happen at any point from almost any deck. and that made you play around it, and good players usually were able to do that.
Yeah, you'd always count Draenor into it, or like you'd always like set up a count Draenor into this thing in case they fern, or you'd always set up a Sergeant's Lanterns into their big creature in case they fern. Like that's not really present anymore, and you always see people playing these super greedy tormented demon chapters where they like slam two massive creatures just perfectly with just enough attack in a row. Like you never used to see Tormented Demon being played like that, or any of the other Reach cards. Like the problem, like you see the Reach cards being used a lot more conservatively. Is the point I'm making, because Fern was a threat and it's no longer present. And I think like 4 was a lot. I really think that was too much. And changing it to add 3 is
even
fine.
Then, I think it's still worth pointing out that every aggro Vaneskla would run a 4/3 Fern.
Yep.
I
especially after any proposed change to Rowdy Cannoneer and Barkatoad.
Mm-hmm. But maybe that's okay.
Yeah.
It could be okay, but
well, let's take a look at like
let's
how.
Take it I want to take it a bit further. What would you think if it were a 4/4?
Well, that's almost exactly the same as a 4/5, as to be honest.
No, I disagree.
Except it's playable at 2 base and 1 hittable at 4, which I think matters. It does matter.
Okay, it matters a bit. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see that, and I think that's like maybe it's like just bring his health down by 1 and then seeing what happens.
I think
is
that
a good
would
place
be
to start.
just
Small
because
steps, right?
I'd be more inclined to do that just because I think at 3 health, while I think it would be auto-include again in those type of decks.
Yeah.
But and while this being a strong card could be fine, I don't know how I would feel about having another auto-include.
Yeah. There needs to be some kind of health penalty for fighting this. What if it added 3 to both players' next creatures? Like Fake and Strain?
That would mean that aggro Vaneskla would have much harder time, although you could then avoid your opponent into Haunted Lake.
Oh, baby!
Well, you couldn't, though, because... Yeah. Oh, yeah, you could.
You could.
Yeah.
Hog.
Fern-worthy Haunted Leech.
Oh. Okay, you found a flaw.
I want to see it.
Oh, wow.
Alright.
But no, most of the time it would actually make it really awkward and bad for the aggro mirror, or you'd have to like play it really late where you're not playing anything after it anymore, or you'd have to play it before you play your KGP or whatever. Like you wouldn't want to do Fern into Troll Checker, Crassian. That wouldn't be a good chapter.
To be fair, I think Fern-worthy opponent Haunted Leech is like, you say that and we're like, oh, okay, maybe not. But actually, like, that's probably fine as well.
I don't see that.
Fine. I don't see that breaking the game.
I was mostly joking when I said that. Like, it would happen, but it wouldn't be game breaking by any means.
So, like, I still think a Fern that adds, like, a 4/3 Fern, like, so reduce the health by 2. And it adds 3 health to both of you, like your rival and your next creature. I think that is probably like that seems reasonable to me, right? Yeah, because as you mentioned, like you then like, yeah.
No, I can see that. I like that idea. But yeah, I think we all agree that like
that's like the point is like we're just saying Fern.
Yeah, Fern and other cards like Fern. There needs to be more cards like Fern that manipulate creatures. There's just not enough in the game at the moment. There's only really Archmage that's played consistently.
Yeah, although while I agree with that, you have to be somewhat careful with it because these decks do target the AP ramping archetype quite heavily, which is something people already think needs a lot of nerfing. So maybe the real way to nerf it is add more strong cards that affect their creatures and interact with them.
And Fern is basically that. Yeah. So
yeah.
I like that a lot. I like that.
Well, discussion. I think that's...
And I think, like, it wouldn't...
Go on.
I was going to say, like, well, Morbrand has a lot of stuff that makes things aggressive, and they don't see a huge amount of play. Maybe that's just because Morbrand doesn't see a huge amount of play, but I feel like Fern, as a 4/3, add 3 isn't far off the power level of Bouncer.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. No. The point is something needs to be done. So I think that sums us up for the day. Pretty long podcast, actually.
Thank you very much, everyone who stuck with us. And thank you, Unforgiven, for joining us tonight. Always a joy having you on.
Thank you. It's pretty late, I was going to say, we're
going to let you get to bed now.
Fuck, I have to wake up in like a bit over 7 hours.
Thanks.
That's amazing, man.
You're probably going to... I'll see you later then, buddy.
So thank you, Interjection, as well. And we will see you hopefully with Ryan again next week on Friday. So thank you very much everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.